Hi, this is Mark Lawson of Business Vision Accountants here. This is just a quick video explaining salary sacrifice, particularly with regard to pension contributions, i.e. the new workplace pensions often done through Nest or People's Pension. The key things to note here are that this is completely backed by the government. They've produced detailed guidance on how to do this, and I'll give you the website a bit later. And the main aim with all salary sacrifice is to save national insurance, both for the employer and the employee. And I'll go through some examples of how this will work shortly. The whole process is relatively quick. There's some number crunching to do at the beginning and some possible changes to employee contracts. And then it's really just tweaking the payroll numbers. It does require the agreement of the employee. You can't just force salary sacrifice on somebody, but there are very few downsides. It seems to me that this is a win-win for employer and employee, but there are a couple of downsides that employees need to be aware of, and I'll run through those a bit later as well. So what I've shown here is an example payslip for an employee earning £24,000 a year. So this will be the monthly pay slip, and you can see here that the take-home pay is £1,604.29. I've shown the current pension contribution, which for most methods of payroll is a 5% deduction, but actually works out at 4% because tax relief is automatically given. So the 1% deduction is the tax relief. The way that salary sacrifice works is that the employer undertakes to pay the pension contribution for the employee. So they add it on to their own employer's contribution. That on its own would obviously just cost the employer more money and save the employee. So the way salary sacrifice works is that the pension contribution that the employer is going to pay, which in this case grosses up to £74 before tax relief. So they'll knock the £74 off the gross pay before doing the payroll calculations. And you can see from the new payslip when this takes place that the gross pay comes down by the £74. The tax relief comes down as well, but because the employee had tax relief on the pension anyway, that doesn't really affect anything. The savings are actually in the NI, where the NI is now based on the lower gross pay, and that applies to both the employees and employers calculation. So in this case, even though the salary's been reduced because of the NI savings, the new net pay is now £1,613.70, so that's about £9 more than they were getting before. And along with that, the employer's NI, which would have been about £175 on the first example, the amended national insurance for the employer would come down to about £165, so the employer saves £10 as well. And if you work that out for this single employee, that's about £228 saved a year in national insurance. Multiply that up by, say, 10 employees, that's £2,280 saved effectively for a little bit of paperwork. Before doing this, we do recommend that either ourselves or the employer goes through some of the key advantages and disadvantages so that they're fully briefed. And I've listed the key ones here. As we've already found, there's government approved NI savings. There's lower NI for both the employee and employer, so both benefit. And there is actually a lower pay level if there's anything that's means tested, so if they're on benefits as well, then for benefit purposes they're actually seen to be earning lower money. The disadvantages mainly revolve around the fact that the gross pay is actually in reality lower, so if they're producing pay slips to get mortgages, their income will be slightly lower, so they'll probably be able to get a slightly lower mortgage. If they get redundancy pay, then that will also be based on a slightly lower figure. And the other downsides are that there are some setup costs normally, unless you'd go DIY, and sometimes employees fail to understand what's going on, and whenever you mention salary being sacrificed and the gross pay coming down, they can be slightly suspicious, and just there's a knee-jerk reaction that they don't want to do anything. Although if that is the case, hopefully this short video will help them understand and if it's a client of ours, we'd be quite happy to run through it with employees anyway. So that's a brief indication of what can be achieved with pension salary sacrifice, and salary sacrifice generally, I say, is government backed, and the website to get more details on this can be found at this link shown on this slide. If you do want to move forward with salary sacrifice, then please get in touch with us. Contact details are here and we can go through it in more detail, work out some exact numbers for your own business, and if necessary go through this with the staff and set all the paperwork up for you. Hope that gives a bit of an overview of salary sacrifice, and if there are any questions or you want to get things moving, then contact details are on the slide.